Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I noticed going through my channel that I do not have a lot of educational content. So I created this quick little guide for how to master your manual mode. First up, we have ISO. So for this video, we're just going to be going over the ISO. So what is your ISO? Well, it's your camera sensitivity to light. So the higher that your ISO is, the more light you're going to have in your image. But you'll also get more grain that way, especially if you're dealing with an already dark image, because the grain likes to hide in the blacks and shadows. So when you crank up your ISO, you are more susceptible for those areas becoming more grainy. It's like if you're in Lightroom and you have a dark image and you just try to crank up, your exposure and everything, and you can see in the blacks of your image, you can see that starts to go grainy first. It's the same thing with your ISO. So the more you bump it up, those things are going to be your first things that really get affected, and then your overall image. ISO is different from the other settings like your f-stop and your shutter speed because it doesn't really have like a creative purpose. The shutter speed, most of us know what the shutter speed affects. It's usually like your motion blur, and like if you wanted to take a picture and have it like freeze frame, that is what shutter speed affects. Now your f-stop, the f-stop is your depth of field. So obviously a lot of creativity with your photos is basically pulling your subject away from the background. If you set your ISO up super high or super low, like it's not really going to do some kind of like creative effect to the image. It's just going to brighten it or darken it, and that's really about it. A lot of people, they just set their ISO to a certain thing and they leave it alone. I personally, I almost always have my ISO set to 100 and I just leave it there. There's no need for me to move it unless it starts to get a little too dark and I'm not wanting to move my shutter speed because I want it to be frozen in time. So I'm not going to, I'm not going to ruin my shutter speed. And a lot of the times my f-stop is exactly where it needs to be and I am not budging on that. If my image is still dark, I usually will have to bump my ISO up to like 400. Sometimes on a rare occasion, I will go up to 800, but I don't do a lot of sessions where I don't have a lot of light. Most of the time, I do sunset sessions, so I still have all that light, plenty of light to come in, so I don't have to worry about it being too dark.